on this computer. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Veda Healing's 12 Steps for Non-Addicts. I am with Morgan and Chris again. This is video 2 of the 12 videos that we're going to do together. As a recap, so yesterday's video was all about surrendering and realizing that we are powerless over whatever it is that's bothering us. And that surrendering is really that sweet spot of saying, I'm not going to try to control this anymore, and I'm going to give it up to a higher power, the divine consciousness, the universe, God, whatever you want to say. And that's a perfect segue into step 2. So Morgan and Chris are going to talk to us about what step 2 actually is. And then Morgan's going to give us our homework, but we're going to kind of talk about each question of the journaling homework in this video to kind of get you guys started on your own practice. So who wants to start? What's step 2?
So step 2, I'll read the step and then read the questions.
Okay.
Step 2 is came to believe a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And the questions are, 1, look up the definition of sanity and write it below. Because what we think in general as sanity is the opposite of insane and like crazy, out there, whatever. And if I'm sane, then I'm like, okay, I'm fine. But it's not really what you think it is. It's a little different. So the definition will be helpful to people.
Cool.
2, the step is about willingness. Look up willingness and write the definition below. 3, what does willingness feel like for you? And I thought that that was important because willingness definitely feels like something inside each of us. And the step 2 conclusion question is, do you believe or are you willing to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity?
So let's talk about that. Actually, we don't have to go in order, but the last question. So believing in a higher power. So for lots of people who are kind of watching this video, they may be like, what are they talking about? Do I have to believe in God? Like, I didn't realize this was going to be a God thing. Or, you know, I always knew the 12 steps was all about God, and that's not really what I'm after. I'm after spiritual development. And I believe that spiritual development and God are 2 different things. So I know I have my own opinion on that, but what are, Chris, tell us a little bit about, like, does somebody truly have to believe in, the God who sits up in the heavens in order to have this spiritual work bring them to that awakening and bring them to that place of freedom?
So, as Morgan stated, the most important thing is this little mustard seed of willingness. A lot of people, it could be Buddha, it could be Muhammad, it could be Jesus. Ultimately, what we're trying to do with this step is to open somebody's mind to maybe access some type of power that they weren't able to have access to before. And so this step is really important because some people might have a fundamental idea of God and not really understand what that has to do with their life. May not understand how it's applicable to kind of their day-to-day activies. So,
like, why is God paying attention to me? Or like, does God even care type thing, you mean?
Right. So there's a really important word that I think should be defined, and that's the word agnostic. Mm-hmm. Many people are agnostic and don't really understand what that means. And what an agnostic is somebody may believe in God, but they think that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God. And when I say God, I'm just using that as a filler word. It could be infinite power and love. It could be the universe. Mm-hmm. I just use God as kind of an easy word because it's there. Mm-hmm. But it could be anything.
So it's interesting because before we started to record this call, I was saying that I think we've all experienced this connection in some fashion in our lives. And, I described earlier that it could be that moment where, you're on vacation and you're at the beach and you just kind of like look out and you feel that feeling of fullness and you feel that connection, and everything just seems to be in the right place, and everybody's getting along and everything just feels really good to you. Or, you have that moment where you've helped out a friend and it was a very meaningful moment, and they look at you, like I call it the namaste bow, like their eyes really look into your eyes and they say, thank you. Like, I could not have gotten through this without you. And you feel that feeling, right? It's when, and everybody knows it. And so it shows up differently for other people, but it's a true feeling of fullness and it's a true feeling of connectedness. And I don't even know if at that time we even know what we're connected to, but what you're describing is exactly what that is, right? We're connecting to the energy of the universe. And lots of people, and I consider that to be God, but lots of people don't. Lots of people just consider that energy of the universe to truly be energy. And honestly, it sounds to me like what you guys are saying is it really doesn't matter what you believe in as long as you're even willing to be open to the existence of this higher power. Am I getting that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so go ahead.
And what you believe as the higher power, your spirit of the universe can look totally different, or you can explain it totally differently than I do. And in our literature, it says, no matter how inadequate it is, your conception of God, that's all you need to make a start. Like, you just need to be open to the idea that there's something out there bigger than you that can restore you to sanity, that can help you through this work.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's it.
Well, it's interesting. So, I went to this meditation retreat with Deepak Chopra at the beginning of February, and he doesn't use the word God ever. But not ever, I think he maybe used it a couple of times, but when you're in meditation and when you're in that not in your body and not in your mind moment of meditation, that's the connected moment that you have to this collective energy. And it really does exist. I explain to my clients, like, everything is energy, right? The stars, the moon, the sun, the grass, the tables that we're using, the computers are giving off energy, we're giving off energy, and everybody knows it to be true because there are often times where you go into a group of people and you're like, ooh, I don't like the energy of this room, right? People have said that. Like, a lay person has said that 100 times. I don't like the energy of that house. I don't like the energy of that space. I don't like that person's energy. They give off a bad vibe. Like, it's kind of a joke, right? But that's what we're talking about. It literally is energy, and there is an energy way bigger than us. And that's what you guys are asking us to be willing to admit that exists. And I assume we're eventually going to get connected to this through the steps. But I think it's interesting. And I also like the definition of the insane versus, insane, because lots of people think like, well, I'm fine. I mean, I'm not crazy, right? So like my anxiety and my fear and all my PTSD and trauma, like, yeah, I have it. And yeah, it sucks. But like, I'm not crazy. So like,
Right.
Why do I need to do this work? Right.
And like, I know, PTSD is the perfect example, right? Because you can do all this therapy and all this work around PTSD and you're like, I'm totally fine. Like, I'm not insane. I'm normal. I'm fine.
Right.
I just, when I hear somebody yell outside, I bug out. Like, or I won't go here because I had a bad experience somewhere and that reminds me of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's not freedom. Like, and from my personal experience, like, I'm healed in some way and I can function, but I'm not truly free because bugging out when I hear a man yelling outside or in the apartment next door and feeling unsafe. That's not free. That's not sane. Like that's my fear, and making me react to something that's happened in the past that I'm not in anymore, that I've moved and healed from, and living in that moment in the past. That's not sanity. That's not freedom.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's a good kind of example or way to think about it. And that's what looking up the definition too will help people with.
I like that. So Chris, why was step 2 in this being willing to be open to this higher power? Why was it important? How did it impact you, and how is it important for you?
So I think in the last episode we talked about the jaywalker, and I think you shared one of your a story about a man who continues to fall into a hole every day he goes to work, and then people keep telling him, why don't you just avoid the hole, and he just keeps falling in the hole.
Yeah.
So even though he didn't want to fall in the hole anymore, he kept falling in it.
Right.
So this step, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, essentially is that you're willing to believe that maybe a power greater than yourself can help you from stop falling in that hole. Whatever your hole is.
My ears are ringing right now. Yeah.
So, and step 2 is really important to me because it was kind of like I felt like I was treading water, and I was getting tired of treading water on, self-reliance or my own willpower. And I kept treading water. And finally I was like, well, if I'm going to keep treading water, maybe I'll reach my hand up and maybe something might be there. This was the willingness, is me reaching my hand up. Maybe something might be there that might be able to pull me out from the water and help me, maybe it won't be so much work for me.
Totally.
If I have help from, this,
right,
whatever it is.
In the meditation piece keeps coming up to me when you were talking about that, because in my office I had like a blackboard, like my wall was a black chalkboard, and I would write things down that would come to me during sessions with people because I thought they were cool. And one of them was going within is where you find your answers, right? Like we don't find our answers in our mind, and we don't even really find our answers in our heart unless we're connected to this higher power, right? So I've known that all along. So for you guys, and I keep saying this, like the alignment of true energy work and spiritual development to the 12 steps is like fascinating to me. You guys were speaking the same language, which I love. And so it really is like surrendering to this higher power and realizing that I just have to listen, right? I just kind of have to be willing to understand that there is something else up there that can guide me on this path, that where I can find truth, where I can find freedom, where I can find peace, where I can find wholeness and happiness. So it sounds to me like this is the first step of trying to make that connection, is just being willing to, admit that that is out there. And like you said, Morgan, it could be a leaf on a tree, right? It doesn't have to be the big, powerful God if you don't want that. It could be, you make a joke that you had a friend who, for her first year of sobriety, believed God was a spoon.
Oh yeah, she identified like her God was spoon. That's what she called it. And I don't know where that came from or what that was all about, but it worked for her. And she was, when she first came in, she was like, I'm not doing any of this work. You people are all crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. And then she was sober for like a little bit, and she was like, okay, I need some help because I can't live like this.
Right.
And yeah, her God was spoon, and spoon brought her all the way through to step 12, and she's one of the most spiritual, awakened people that I know, and in the most unexpected ways. When I first met her, when I first was getting to know her, to know her then and to know her now, if you had told me she would have the belief and the trust and the faith in God that she does today, I would tell you that you were insane. But she does, and it all started with Spoon. So it doesn't have to be God, it doesn't have to be Jesus, Allah, anything. It could be Spoon. It just can't be yourself, and it can't be another human. It has to be something out there bigger than you.
Okay. All right. So before we go, when you guys do this journaling, how do you do it personally? Like, do you set time aside? Do you do a little meditation first? Like, just for people who are just starting off. I mean, I know when I journal, I set time aside. Everybody knows not to bother me. I light a candle. I ask for my guardian angels and all of my angels and God to be present with me to help me to heal and release. But what do you guys do?
I think that, yeah, all of that is important, and that's what I do too, and that's what was taught to me when doing this work. And we'll get to more about like the mechanics of it in the next couple of videos, but to sit down and do the journaling for this part, yeah, definitely set some time apart and give yourself some time where you can kind of sit and just be quiet with it. And really just like give the time and attention to what you're doing. And yeah, practice asking, God or the spirit of the universe, or just asking, even if you don't know what to call it, just maybe I started throwing up like little questions or little things, and I started to feel connected. I started to feel open and comforted by saying, God, please relieve me of this anxiety. God, please help me get to my meeting on time tonight. God, please help me, random little things, and these little miracles would start to happen. So that's what I would maybe encourage people to start doing. And it doesn't have to be formal prayer. It doesn't have to be a whole thing. It could be like how we're talking here. That's how you can talk to it. That's how I talk to God.
Mm-hmm. Chris?
So one thing that I there's two pieces of step 2 for me that were really important. And one question was, is it possible that all spiritual and religious people are wrong? All of them. Is it possible that all of them are wrong? And that could be a meditation question, to kind of ponder that question. And then there's another piece to that, which is when one of the stories that we talk about is somebody who looked up at the stars, and they looked up at the stars and were, quote unquote, enchanted by a starlit night. And so oftentimes when I was like, I wasn't sure how a power greater than myself could help me at all, or do anything for me, or whether I believed or didn't believe. Mm-hmm. I would think of like total beauty in my life, where that could be like a tree. Like, how does a tree work? Think about, you could meditate on how are trees helping the universe. Mm-hmm. You could meditate on the good in the world. There's a lot of different ways that you can kind of like experience a shift by thinking about total love. Mm. And I love the description that you began to talk about. When somebody comes across a spiritual person, and they might not even know that they're a spiritual person, they feel that energy. They feel that complete maybe humbleness of somebody connecting with you. I know that I've felt that before with various people in my life, where I was like, something's different about this person.
Mm.
I can't really put my finger on it, but I like it, you know? And so, and to me, it was really important for me to later on learn that what it was this guy had some type of spiritual practice in his life, and that's why he was the way he was. But ultimately, when it comes down to step 2, it's really like, are you now willing, or do you believe in God, or are you now willing to believe in God? And that's the major piece of the pie here.
I love it. I love it. All right, cool. So everybody has their homework. Again, it'll be next to the video on our website as a downloadable PDF. So good luck journaling, and we'll be with you. So if you have any questions, you can comment on social, and we'll be there for you. And we will see you soon for step 3. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.